Assalamu alaikum, grade 5. Welcome again to the science session. Today, inshallah, we're gonna start lesson number 3 in this chapter number 6. And actually, this is chapter especially talking about the astronomy. Today, we gonna talk about the inner planet. So, the title for today, what are the inner planets? So, in the beginning, we have in our galaxy solar system. So the solar system made up of our star, the sun, and planet and other objects like moons and asteroids. So in solar system we have two kinds or classifying of planets. Inner planet that's closer to the sun, and outer planet and that's so far from the sun. So the difference between them and characteristics in the surface and layers of this is planet and the material that's made up of this is planet and the distance between the sun and this is planet. So this is lesson only talking about the inner planet. So what is the inner planet and why we can classifying the inner planets have the similar characteristics and different characteristics. So we have inner planets, 4 inner planets in solar system, beginning with Mercury and Venus, Earth and Mars. So we have 4 kinds of inner planets. Mercury, that's closest to the Sun, after that Venus and Earth, our planet, and Mars, that's the last planet in inner planet. So in the beginning of this lesson I wanted to say this is picture, and what planet do you think in this picture shows? So if I give you this picture and I show you that what's this kind of planet, you can find the answers. So in the beginning, in last chapter, we talking about some characteristics and some spheres on Earth that can be the difference to another planet. So here in this picture, there is any conditions to keeping alive for human? Absolutely not. That's only red planets and rocks and other materials like rust or iron oxide or something like that. So that's absolutely not Earth planet. And you hear before that the red planet Mars. So that's red planet Mars. So the possible answer here Mars. Why? Because that's red planet that have only rock surface and iron oxide. So again, iron oxide, that's kind of iron materials in this soil of the surface of Mars planet. So in the beginning, what's the meaning of planet? Planet, actually in the beginning we have in space or in the sky different objects and different size objects in the sky, beginning with small objects like asteroids and comets to travel to the solar system and stars, galaxies, and all the universe. So planets, that kind of object, that's large object, such as Jupiter. Jupiter is that large planet in our solar system, or Earth that orbits a star that's traveling around the specific star. Planets as smaller than stars, that's absolutely. And so the characteristics of planets that's more than the stars, and that do not produce any light or energy like sun or stars. Stars have specific functions that to produce light and energy, a lot of energy, but planets that traveling around these stars and do not produce any light or energy, but just reflect the light or absorb the light of energy from this source. Jupiter, as we know, that's largest or biggest planet in our solar system. So again, what's the meaning of planet? Planets that objects, dark objects that have do not produce any light or energy, that traveling around the star in orbits. And inshallah, in this session we know what's the meaning of orbits and how this is objects or planets traveling around the star in specific orbits, and that have a different size in planet, like the stars. Stars have a different size and planets have a different size. And we have other objects in the sky like asteroids, comets, and other objects smaller than the planets. And the four inner planets in order from the sun, that's what we're talking about today, inshallah. The Mars, Mercury, beginning with the Mercury, that's closest planets in the sun. After that, Venus, Earth, and Mars. So, this is four planets have specific characteristics that similar between them. That's rocky surface or rocky layers of this is planet. So this is planets heavy and a large amount of mass in the solar system. Why? Because that's closest to the sun and have a rocky surface. What's the meaning of rocky surface? That's containing the soil and rock in the surface of this is planet. So that's the similar between them. But the difference between them, each one of them have a difference in atmosphere, temperature, and other conditions. So today we're gonna talk about the Mercury, number one, the closest planet, Venus, Earth, and this is have a similar size, and Mars. That's the end of, or the last one of the inner planet. So in the beginning, before going to study this is planet and have a different different characteristics between them, we should to know what's the meaning of the orbit and orbiting objects, how the planets moving in the same orbit in the sky, and what's the orbit shape of the planet. Orbiting object or orbit, and orbits is a path, only or specific in the simple words, path that in objects taken in space when it goes around the star. So if we talking about this is point that's considered of stars, any star like the sun, and this is the planet and other objects like moons or like or something like that, that's moving around this sun in the same orbit, that's due to the gravity or universal gravity. So again, orbits that the path that an object takes in space, that's when it goes around the sun, a planet or a moon or any object, asteroids, comets, or something like that, and that's due to or controlled by gravity of this star or universal gravity and gravitational waves. So you can see here that's animations video that's describing how the planets move in around the sun in the same orbit, and that's called oval shaped. What's the meaning of oval shaped? That's like the A. So the Earth, Mars, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, any kinds of planets that's moving around the sun in the specific orbit. So as we know, we have four inner planets and four outer planets. Between them, some of objects, smaller objects, that's called asteroids, meteoroids, asteroids, and comets. So number one, the closest one, that's Mercury, and that's have high temperature because that's closest to the sun, and have small size that's nearly to the size of the moon of Earth. And Venus, that's the similar size of the Earth, but the difference in the atmosphere. And Earth, that our home, and Mars, the end of the inner planets, and each one of them have rocky surface. After the asteroids between the inner and outer planets, we have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And that's what we're talking in the next lesson, inshallah. So, in the going to the next step, Mercury. Mercury, the number one and closest planet in our solar system. So this is the shape of the Mercury, but we cannot make a clearly picture for the Mercury. Why? Because that's closest to the sun. So there are high pressure conditions and high temperature that we cannot going to Mercury or sending some probes, and we know what's the meaning of probes today, to collecting the data and take a picture for Mercury. So Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, no much larger than the Earth's moon, and have no moon. This is planets have no moons its own, and so close to the Sun, so it's hard to get a good view of it. So now we should know what's the meaning of space probe. Space probe, that's important uh, important system that's using by some scientists, astronomical, to describing for exploring. So a space probe collecting the data about the solar system and send information back to Earth. That's using by astronomical and scientists that helpful for collecting the picture and data and some type of rocks from other planets like Mars or something like that. So the next planet after the Mercury, Venus. Venus is the called it Venus. That's number two, planet number two after the Mercury. That's similar or the same size of the Earth and difference in structure in the layers of Venus and Earth, and however it's many other ways. Venus is very different from the Earth by the atmosphere of the Earth and the Venus. So here we can watch the difference between the Venus with clouds and the Venus without cloud. The Venus without cloud, that's the same in the Earth, the shape of the Earth, but with the clouds that's different. That's because the different atmosphere and the gaseous in the atmosphere between the Earth and Venus. Earth and the Moon. Earth is our home and our planet, and have specific conditions and spheres that make a life in this planet. Earth is the planet we live in it, and is the third planet from the Sun, and that's only planet know that have life conditions on it. Earth has three main layers, as we studying in the last chapter: spheres of the Earth, atmosphere and biosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. The surface layer of the Earth, or if we make a classifying of the layers of the Earth, we have three main layers of the Earth: crust, below the crust, the molten, and the core. You can see here the layers of the Earth, and this is rocky surface like other inner planets, but different in the life conditions like water and biosphere or something like that. We have crust and mantle and core, and this is have a magma on high temperature. The moon So what's the meaning of a moon and the difference between the moon and other planets and other objects in the space? The moon is Earth's largest natural satellite. So that's called natural satellite that's moving around the planet in the same orbit. We usually see the moon in the night sky and some planets also. That's like Venus. Venus, we can see it in the morning and the evening, and also have moons or natural satellites like Jupiter. Jupiter have 79 moons around them and two large moon around the Jupiter. And Jupiter is the largest planet in solar system, our solar system. So you can see here the movement of the moon and Earth around the sun and movements the moon around the Earth in the specific orbit. So we have orbits from the movement of moons around the Earth and orbits from movement of the Earth around the sun, and this can make eclipse between the Earth and moon and the sun. Okay, the last point in our lesson today, that's talking about Mars, the last planet in inner planet. After that we can found the asteroids and the outer planet. Mars, the scientists call it the red planet. Why? Because that have a large amount of iron dioxide. Iron oxide, that's kinds of iron that have a red color, and that's made up all the soil of the surface in the Mars. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun and have a temperature lower than the Mercury and Venus because that's fourth planet from the Sun. And the soil that cover the most of Mars that have color called a reddish brown material that's called iron oxide that make up the rust that make the red color of Mars. Probes are robots that traveling to the Mars to help scientists to learn about the rocks and soil on Mars. You can see in this videos that probe and space probe or robots like this is probe traveling to put the robots in the surface of the Mars to collecting the data and some materials of the surface of the Mars to know what's the makeup of the Mars. Again, today you should to know what's the inner planet and the meaning of planets and other objects in the space and the difference between the planets and moons and the similar characteristic between the inner planet and difference between the inner planet. Inner planet, the closest to the sun and have rocky surface, Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars. So you can watch this video that can make the summary for all what we studying today.
The solar system is made of the sun and its planets, along with moons, asteroids, and comets. A planet is a large round object that revolves around a star and has cleared the region around its orbit. An orbit is the path an object takes as it revolves around a star, planet, or moon. There are 8 known planets that orbit the sun. The 4 closest planets are called the inner planets. These planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The inner planets have rocky surfaces. Earth, which is the 3rd planet from the Sun, is the only planet in the solar system with liquid water on its surface and the only planet known to support life. Earth has 1 orbiting moon. A moon is a natural object that revolves around a planet. Scientists have learned about the inner planets by using space probes. A space probe is a spacecraft that gathers data and doesn't need a crew. Got it? Sure you do!
Sure, you got it. So before we finish this lesson, we can talk about something. the orbiting or the orbiting that's moving of some planets around the sun. I want to show you each, or if the planets that's closest to the sun have high speed for moving around the sun. So Mercury have a short day. If we convert between the Mercury and the sun, Mercury and the Earth, Mercury have a high speed to move around the sun in the so the Mercury have a large speed to move or movement around the sun compared to the Earth or Mars. So the Mars high, and the Neptune, that's the last one or the last planets in solar system, have a large amount of time that's traveling around the sun. So this is the last thing what we're talking about today, and thank you for listening. Study well, and any question you can send me. Goodbye.